Good morning, children. Once again back to the new session of Science and Technology Part 2. In this chapter, we are going to study about the energy flow in an ecosystem. Okay. So your 7th chapter of Science Part 2 deals with the energy flow in an ecosystem. The points which we are going to cover in this chapter are food chain and food web. We are going to study about the food chain and food web. The energy pyramid we are going to study about, and we are going to study about the various cycles, the cycles that are biogeochemical cycles. So in the biogeochemical cycles, we are going to study about the carbon cycle, oxygen cycle and the nitrogen cycle. Now, looking back towards your previous class, can you tell me what is the meaning of the word ecosystem? Yes, ecosystem is the word means, the eco means bios. Okay, so eco means the system in which all organisms live together and functional together. Okay, the ecosystem word you are very well aware with it. Then what are the different types of ecosystem? Yes students, if you can recall, let me help you to recall it once again. The different types of ecosystems we have studied are the terrestrial ecosystem, aquatic ecosystem, forest ecosystem. Okay, these are some of the basic different types of the ecosystems. Now, the next point which we have studied in previous classes are how do interactions takes place between the biotic and abiotic factors of an ecosystem. Okay, so biotic and abiotic factors of ecosystems are dependent with each other. They are linked with each other. The abiotic components play a very important role in the smooth and proper functioning of ecosystem. Some of the abiotic components are air, water, temperature, soil, humidity. These are sunlight. Okay, minerals, soil. These are some of the abiotic component of an ecosystem. Whereas the biotic component of the ecosystem is all the plants and animals living in that particular ecosystem. Now, in this chapter, we are going to now first study the classification of organisms according to the mode of nutrition. So, depending upon the mode of the nutrition, the different organisms are classified as producers, consumers, saprophytes and decomposers. So, producers you all very well know. Producers are the plants. Yes children, all the plants contain chlorophyll in that. They are having large sufficient amount of chlorophyll present. This chlorophyll helps in the smooth conducting of the process of photosynthesis. Hence the plants are producers. Now after producers we have the primary consumers. So all the herbivorous animals are the primary consumers. Example, grasshopper, squirrel, elephant. All they are directly dependent on the producers. Those are the autotrophs. Hence these are the primary consumers. Secondary consumers. Secondary consumers are the consumers which are dependent on the primary consumers, which are dependent upon the herbivorous animals for their food. Example of secondary consumers are fox, owl, frog. These all are the examples of the secondary consumers. Then we have the apex or top consumers. These are also known as the carnivores. Example, lion, tiger, etc. These consumers use herbivorous and carnivorous animal as their food. No other animals feed on the top consumer. We know, since no other animal feed on the top consumer, and that is the reason that these are the top carnivorous, top consumers or the apex consumers. For example, you can say this is the reason why the lion is called the king of the jungle. You can say in your childhood you have studied, you have read the stories about the lion, and the lion is known as the king of the jungle. The reason is that because there is no other animal which is dependent on the lion as their food. And then we have the omnivorous. Omnivorous means mixed consumers, means human beings, bears, etc. The organisms which depends upon herbivores also and carnivores also for their food are known as the omnivores. Welcome back, students. Now in this session we are going to study about the concepts of food chain. Okay, now I want all of you to look at this picture properly and just try to analyze what thing you can get or what thing comes to your mind. Okay, now see, if you look towards this picture, you will be coming to know that you are having grass. Okay, grasses you are having in this picture. So in presence of sunlight, soil and water, the grasses grow. The grasses you can say it as plants. Okay, plants grow in the presence of sunlight, soil and water. Then the next thing which you are able to see in this picture is regarding there is a grasshopper. So now this grasshopper is dependent upon grass for its food. So now grass will be the producers or autotrophs and grasshopper will be primary consumer, or it is also known as herbivore. Okay, it is also known as primary consumer or herbivore. Then after grass, grasshopper, you are able to see a frog is there. Okay, now this frog is the carnivore. Okay, the frog is dependent upon the grasshopper for its food. Okay, so now grasshopper will become the carnivorous animal. Then snake. Okay, snake is dependent on the frog for its food. So now snake will be coming at second level of carnivores, means the snake gets its food from the frog, frog gets its food from the grasshopper. Now again there is a picture of an eagle. Okay, so now this eagle is dependent upon the snake for the food. So this shows that this bird is at the topmost level of the carnivore animal. Again, when these organisms die, okay, so the last picture, these are the saprophytic bacteria which survive on the dead and decaying matter. Okay, dead bodies and decaying matters. Again, these saprophytic bacteria convert the whatever organic material into the soil or minerals, and in this way the minerals are again returned back to the environment. So this simple thing only you are able to see in this food chain. At one trophic level only one organism is there. In this one only one plant is there, one herbivorous and one secondary primary carnivorous are there. Okay, so you are able to see all the things are only one. But now if you compare this with previous diagram, now you will be able to see here green plant is there, but you are able to see different organisms, like you are able to see rabbit also, mouse also, goat also, who are dependent on the green plants. Then again this mouse is eaten by snake also, owl also, even the wild animals. Then rabbit is again eaten by the jackal, and this goat is eaten by either jackal or by the lion. Just go through the directions properly, students, you will be understanding it very well. Then again you will be able to see that jackal is eaten by the lion. Okay, so this means that there is a web. You cannot say which organism is going to consume which organism, and in such conditions we say that instead of food chain, this is known as a food web. Okay, food web means what? When one organism is eaten by or consumed by many organisms, such system or such arrangement is known as a food web. Now, an ecosystem consists of many food chains that are interconnected at various levels and thus forms a food web. Welcome back, students. And at this session we are going to study about the energy pyramid. Now there is a diagram given in your textbook in the page number 82. Okay, this is the same diagram. Here you are able to see that there are different levels of the organisms. In different levels, different organisms are there. Previously, in the basic level at the down, we are having the plants, or also known as the producers, or the autotrophic plants. After that, we are having the herbivorous animals. After that, we are having carnivores, and the topmost level is occupied by the omnivorous animals. Now, omnivorous animals are the animals which are consuming both plants also and the carnivorous or other animals also. Now, what is the trophic level? Each level in the food chain is called a trophic level. A trophic level is the step at which the organism obtains its food in the chain. So now here in the previous diagram, if you are able to see the levels, means all the producers in ecosystem, this is one level. Herbivorous is the first trophic level, carnivorous is the second trophic level, and omnivorous is the third trophic level. These sections are known as the trophic level. And the amount of matter and energy gradually decreases from producers, and at the lowest it is at the topmost consumer. So there is a loss of energy from one level to another as we go in the trophic level. Now see, this pyramid is also known as an energy pyramid. The pyramid is known as an energy pyramid, and in this energy pyramid you can come to know that the energy transfer takes place at each trophic level. There are different levels of energy exchange in the food chain. The initial quantity of energy goes on decreasing at each level of energy exchange, and even the number of organisms also decreases from lowest to the highest level. And this pattern of energy exchange in an ecosystem, this is known as an energy pyramid. Now, this is pyramid of an aquatic ecosystem. If you will study this pyramid properly, you will be coming to know that phytoplanktons means the plants. Okay, and if you see how much energy level they are having 10,000 kilocalories of energy. How much energy, students? 10,000 kilocalories. Now, when the zooplanktons, means zooplanktons which we can also say as herbivores, okay, when these zooplanktons, they feed on carnivorous, now the energy which they are getting, how much it is? It is 1000 kilocalories. Okay, means directly there is loss of 10% of energy from one level to another level. Then again, when the zooplanktons are feeding on the fishes, okay, when these zooplanktons, the fishes are feeding on the zooplanktons. So again, from zooplankton to the fishes, there is a loss of energy. Now fishes, they are giving how much amount of energy? The fishes are getting 100 kilocalories of energy. Means again, from 1000 to 100, there is a loss of 10% of energy. From 1000 to 100 kilocalorie, there is a loss of 10% of energy. Then again, when these fishes are consumed by human beings, okay, so human beings are receiving 10 kilocalories of energy. Human beings are receiving 10 kilocalories of energy. So again, from fishes to human beings, there is a loss of 10% of energy. So in this way, you have understood that there is a loss of energy as it goes from one trophic level to another. Now, the one-way transport is another concept. The sun is the most important source of energy in an ecosystem, and the green plants in the ecosystem store some of the solar energy in the form of food. Before reaching to the decomposers, the energy is passed from the one trophic level to the next. and these decomposers, they dissipated some amount of energy in the form of heat. Now what happened? The decomposers, they dissipated or they release some energy in the form of heat. But now in the whole process, what happened? No part of energy is given back to sun. No part of energy is returned back to sun. Hence, such passage of energy is referred to as a one-way transport. Means the energy is one way only. Welcome back, students. Now in this session we are going to study about the introduction to the scientist. So Lindemann in year 1942 he studied the food chain and energy flow through it. Charles Elton, a British scientist, proposed first the concept of ecological pyramid in the year 1927, and after his study of the tundra ecosystem and the Bear Islands in the England. Hence the name pyramid, which you have studied in the previous video, the name pyramid is also called as the Eltonian pyramid. Then there are various institutes which are working in the field of ecology and environment. Okay, these institutes are having different research and training. So in India, in Delhi, we are having an institute of the Indian Institute of Ecology and Environment. It was established in the year 1980, and this institute is involved mainly in the research, training and arranging workshops and seminars related to the environmental field and environmental concepts and ecology. Now, this institute is also having many research firms, and it is also publishing International Encyclopedia of Ecology and Environment. So this is an institute which is working for the ecology and environment to study the students and to make students aware about the environment, ecology and the ecosystem. Now this study is very useful because as we know that the global warming is increasing, pollution is increasing, the need of the time is that we should be more and more aware towards our environment. And the cutting of the trees, these are some of the factors which are affecting adversely to the ecology. Okay, so even if one organism is not able to survive at one stage of ecosystem, it is affecting the whole ecosystem, and this is the reason there are many institutes which are working at regional and national level for proper maintaining, for proper functioning and proper studying of the ecology and the environment. Welcome students for the today's day's session. Okay, so student, yesterday we have started with the chapter 7, that is the energy flow in an ecosystem. Okay, so in this chapter we have studied about the concepts of the ecosystem, the concepts of food chain, food web and the food pyramid. Now student, we are going to study the different aspect of the same thing. We are going to study about the various cycles, that is the biogeochemical cycles. Now here in this diagram, just for your understanding, see this is a picture of an earth. Okay, you can imagine it, and all the three spheres are there. Now hydrosphere atmosphere interaction is given, atmosphere and environment interaction is given, and conversion of lithosphere into rocks and soil, and the interaction between the hydrosphere and atmosphere, lithosphere with biosphere is shown in the diagram. Okay, so different, you can see the diagram, just the arrows, and what are the different interactions of the different components of the life with each other, it is shown in the same in the diagram. Now children, we will be starting towards the biogeochemical cycle. Now what is actually the biogeochemical cycle? The cyclic flow of nutrients within an ecosystem is called the biogeochemical cycle. Cyclic means what students? Cycle. Okay, means circle, you can say in short for your understanding. So the circular pattern of flow of nutrients in an ecosystem, when a nutrient is flowing in circular pattern, means there is a formation of a circle. Such a cycle is known as a biogeochemical cycles. Now nutrients are necessary for the growth of organism, are continuously transferred from abiotic components to biotic and biotic to abiotic factors within an ecosystem. So you can in short understand that biotic and abiotic component, even these components, abiotic components are not living components, okay, but then also they play a very important role in measuring the proper life, proper work of an healthy human being. Suppose you are not drinking water for a long time, what will happen? Okay, so these are the things, we are living thing and the water is non-living thing, but we human beings have to depend upon the non-living things. In the same way, the biotic factors are dependent on the abiotic components within an ecosystem. Now the biogeocycle operates continuously through the medium of biosphere formed by the lithosphere, atmosphere and hydrosphere. So yes, the biogeochemical cycle takes place in the lithosphere, atmosphere and hydrosphere. The combination is known as a biosphere. The recycling of biological, geological and chemical sources of nutrient is this process is complex process, and it depends upon the level of energy transferred in the ecosystem. So nutrients is main source, but then also they are totally dependent upon the layer of energy, level of energy transferred in the ecosystem. Now children, this is the comparison table I have made. Okay, see here two different headings are given. One is gaseous cycle and another is sedimentary cycle. Okay, so I will start from down. Okay children, I'm first going to tell you the include part, means example part. Now if you see in the gaseous cycle, it includes nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, water vapor, etc. Whereas when you see the sedimentary cycle, it includes soil components like calcium, iron, phosphorus, etc. So now the picture might be little bit clear in the front of your eyes that the gaseous cycle is the accumulation of main abiotic gases, gaseous nutrient materials found in the Earth's atmosphere. Okay, so gaseous cycle is mostly related to the gaseous nutrient material, whereas the sedimentary cycle is an accumulation of main abiotic component materials found in the soil like sedimentary rocks, etc. Soil, sedimentary and sedimentary rocks. Means sedimentary cycle is related with the soil and the different components or different factors which are associated with the soil. Now the gaseous cycle is speedier than the sedimentary cycle. For example, if carbon dioxide has accumulated in the area, it is quickly dispersed with the wind or absorbed by the plants. So yes, it is a very clear concept that the obvious, since the gas are very lighter and they easily react with each other, so the gaseous cycle will definitely be faster and all speedier than the nutrient cycle. And climatic changes and human activities seriously affect the speed, intensity and equilibrium of these cycles. Okay, so hence various aspects of these cycles are extensively studied nowadays. Okay students, so now in this session we have studied about the gaseous cycle and the sedimentary cycle. In the next session we will be studying about the carbon cycle. Okay students, thank you, take care. Hope you all are fine and safe. Welcome back students. Now in this session we are going to study about the carbon cycle. Okay, as discussed in the previous session, I have told you there are the gaseous cycle and the sedimentary cycle, if you can recall. So now the carbon cycle will come under which category? Yes, I want you all to just say the answer in your mind. Yes student, the carbon cycle will come under the gaseous cycle. Now how do the actual process takes place? Okay, so the circulation and recycling of carbon from the atmosphere to living organism, and after their death back to the atmosphere is called as the carbon cycle. Means in the carbon cycle, the nutrients they flow from the atmosphere to the living organisms in the body, and from their body they are again going back to the environment, to the nature after the organism dies. Okay, so this cycle is known as a carbon cycle. Now, abiotic carbon atoms are circulated and recycled into biotic form mainly through photosynthesis and respiration. So abiotic components means carbon is actually an abiotic component. It is coming into the human body by the process of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis means what? The process in which plants produce their food. And respiration means now we are breathing in, breathing out. So when we are breathing out, we giving out the carbon dioxide from our body. So photosynthesis and respiration, these are the processes from which the carbon is entering the human body or coming into the biotic component. Now see children, just look keenly towards the diagram. Okay, then you will be able to understand more properly. You are able to see this whole picture. Okay, so some components you are able to see, like you are able to see an animal over there, you are able to see the trees over there, you are able to see the factory and the chimney, the smoke is coming out. Okay, you are able to see a water over there. Now so this is just a pictorial representation of the carbon cycle. So from sunlight the carbon is coming, okay, with the help into the photosynthesis process. Okay, so carbon is one of the major important process in the photosynthesis component. Then the plants are consumed by the animals. Then these animals are again, if you follow the food chain, are eaten by another animal, and in this case the carbon goes from one component to another. So what actually happens in that process? First of all, plants convert the carbon dioxide into carbohydrates by the process of photosynthesis. Herbivorous plants feeds on the herbivorous on these plants. Okay, then carnivorous feed upon the herbivorous, and in this way biotic carbon is transferred from plants to herbivorous, and from herbivorous to carnivorous, and from carnivorous to the apex carnivorous. So this whole transformation of carbon from one organism to another organism is known as a carbon cycle. And there are certain chemical processes taking place over here, students, please note down. Now see, the main process in the carbon cycle is 6CO2 means 6 carbon dioxide molecules reacts with the 12 molecules of water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. What they give? They give C6H12O6, that is the glucose, plus water, 6 molecules of water, and 6 molecules of oxygen is released. Okay, the first equation says you about this is a process of a photosynthesis. Okay students, if you want you can note it down somewhere. Then in second process, C6H12O6 plus 6CO2 in mitochondria, what is given out? Carbon dioxide is given out plus 6 molecules of water and energy is released. The second process is the respiration process, which is taking place in the mitochondria. Okay, so you all know that respiration takes place in the body of the organism, and that also in the mitochondria. Now eventually after the death of all type of consumer are decomposed by decomposers like bacteria, fungi, and carbon dioxide is released again into the atmosphere and is used again by the living organism. In this way carbon is continuously passed from one living organism to another, and after the death of the living organism the carbon goes into the atmosphere and is again taken up by the living organism, and this whole process is known as the carbon cycle. Okay children, now I hope you have just understood the concept of the carbon cycle. Please visit the video once again so that your concepts will be more clear properly. Take care students. Thank you. Welcome back students. Now this is the video in which I am going to discuss some extra important questions. Okay, now first of all What are the 4 steps of the carbon cycle? So the 4 important steps in the carbon cycle are: first steps, the carbon enters the atmosphere in the form of CO2, this is carbon dioxide. CO2 is absorbed by the autotrophs such as green plants. Animal consume plants, thereby incorporating carbon in their system. Animal and plants die, their body decompose, and carbon is reabsorbed back into the atmosphere. So these are the 4 steps, main important steps. First of all, it is in the form of CO2. Then CO2 is taken up plants by the photosynthesis. Those plants are consumed by the another organisms, and then when these organisms and plants die, again the CO2 or carbon is given again back to the environment. Now, why is the carbon cycle important? The carbon cycle is important in ecosystem because it moves carbon, a life sustaining element, from atmosphere and oceans into organisms and back again to the atmosphere and oceans. Okay, so because it is, you can say in short, it is easy to transfer, or it transfers the carbon from atmosphere to the human bodies and animal bodies, plant bodies, and again from in the ocean also. So that is why this cycle is important. And then scientists are currently looking into the ways in which human can use other non-carbon containing fuels for energy. Okay, so you know carbon is one of the important fuel. Your all the fossil fuels which you have been studying from the childhood, those every fossil fuel contains the carbon. Then how does the carbon cycle work step by step? Okay, so first step is carbon moves from the atmosphere to plants, then moves from plants to animals. Okay, then carbon moves from plants and animals to the soil. Then carbon moves from living things to the atmosphere. Carbon moves from fossil fuels to the atmosphere when fuels are burned. Okay, this process you understand when you drive vehicles or whatever chimneys are there in the factory. In the previous session there was one diagram in which there was a factory and chimney was given. So this is when any burning of fossil fuel takes place, again the carbon is given to the atmosphere and carbon moves from the atmosphere other way. Okay, so in this way this cycle continuously goes from one place to another, transporting the carbon from atmosphere to different components. Thank you students, take care, hope you all stay safe. Welcome students for the today's day's session. Okay, so student, yesterday we have started with the chapter 7, that is the energy flow in an ecosystem. Okay, so in this chapter we have studied about the concepts of the ecosystem, the concepts of food chain, food web, and the food pyramid. Now student, we are going to study the different aspect of the same thing. We are going to study about the various cycles, that is the biogeochemical cycles. Now here in this diagram, just for your understanding, see there is this is a picture of an earth. Okay, you can imagine it, and all the 3 spheres are there. Now hydrosphere atmosphere interaction is given, atmosphere and environment interaction is given, and conversion of lithosphere into rocks and soil, and the interaction between the hydrosphere and atmosphere, lithosphere with biosphere is shown in the diagram. Okay, so different, you can see the diagram, just the arrows, and what are the different interactions of the different components of the life with each other, it is shown in the same in the diagram. Now children, we will be starting towards the biogeochemical cycle. Now what is actually the biogeochemical cycle? The cyclic flow of nutrients within an ecosystem is called the biogeochemical cycle. Cyclic means what students? Cycle. Okay, means circle, you can say in short for your understanding. So the circular pattern of flow of nutrients in an ecosystem, when a nutrient is flowing in circular pattern, means there is a formation of a circle. Such a cycle is known as a biogeochemical cycles. Now nutrients are necessary for the growth of organism, are continuously transferred from abiotic components to biotic and biotic to abiotic factors within an ecosystem. So you can in short understand that biotic and abiotic component, even these components, abiotic components are not living components, okay, but then also they play a very very important role in measuring the proper life, proper work of an healthy human being. Suppose you are not drinking water for a long time, what will happen? Okay, so these are the thing, we are living thing and the water is non-living thing, but we human beings have to depend upon the non-living things. In the same way, the biotic factors are dependent on the abiotic components within an ecosystem. Now, the biogeocycle operates continuously through the medium of biosphere formed by the lithosphere, atmosphere and hydrosphere. So yes, the biogeochemical cycle takes place in the lithosphere, atmosphere and hydrosphere. The combination is known as a biosphere. The recycling of biological, geological and chemical sources of nutrient is this process is complex process, and it depends upon the level of energy transferred in the ecosystem. So nutrients is main source, but then also they are totally dependent upon the layer of energy, level of energy transferred in the ecosystem. Now children, this is the comparison table I have made. Okay, see here two different headings are given. One is gaseous cycle and another is sedimentary cycle. Okay, so I will start from down. Okay children, I'm first going to tell you the include part, means example part. Now if you see in the gaseous cycle, it includes nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, water vapor, etc. Whereas when you see the sedimentary cycle, it includes soil components like calcium, iron, phosphorus, etc. So now the picture might be little bit clear in the front of your eyes that the gaseous cycle is the accumulation of main abiotic gases, gaseous neutron materials found in the Earth's atmosphere. Okay, so gaseous cycle is mostly related to the gaseous nutrient material, whereas the sedimentary cycle is an accumulation of main abiotic component materials found in the soil like sedimentary rocks, etc. Soil, sedimentary and sedimentary rocks. Means sedimentary cycle is related with the soil and the different components or different factors which are associated with the soil. Now the gaseous cycle is speedier than the sedimentary cycle. For example, if carbon dioxide has accumulated in the area, it is quickly dispersed with the wind or absorbed by the plants. So yes, it is a very clear concept that the obvious, since the gas are very lighter and they easily react with each other. So the gaseous cycle will definitely be faster and all speedier than the nutrient cycle. And climatic changes and human activities seriously affect the speed, intensity and equilibrium of these cycles. Okay, so hence various aspects of these cycles are extensively studied nowadays. Okay students, so now in this session we have studied about the gaseous cycle and the sedimentary cycle. In the next session we will be studying about the carbon cycle. Okay students, thank you, take care. Hope you all are fine and safe. Welcome back students. Now in the previous session we have studied about the oxygen, its uses, sources and importance of oxygen. Now in this session I am going to teach you about the oxygen cycle. Now children, if you are able to recall, your previous lecture we have studied about the carbon cycle. Now here we are going to study about the oxygen cycle. Oxygen forms 21% of the atmosphere. It is also present in the hydrosphere and the lithosphere. Circulation and recycling of oxygen within the biosphere is called as an oxygen cycle. Means what? The process in which the oxygen is going throughout the biosphere, that process is known as an oxygen cycle. Now this cycle too includes both biotic and abiotic components. Now, if you have studied, you have revised the chapter, and then you have seen regarding the carbon cycle, so you will come to know that carbon goes from living being to non-living, means you can say from the biotic component it is transferred to the abiotic, and again from the abiotic to the biotic. So the chain goes on. In the same way, the oxygen cycle also moves from the biotic to abiotic, and again abiotic to biotic. Oxygen is continuously produced as well as used up in the atmosphere. Okay, again children, same thing, that oxygen is producing also, means plants are releasing the oxygen in the atmosphere also, and like we human beings, animal, in the process of respiration we are again using up, again we are consuming also this atmospheric oxygen. Okay, now oxygen is highly reactive and it readily reacts with the other elements and compounds. Now, oxygen is occurring in various form. Okay, in the form of molecular oxygen, that is normal O2, in the form of water, that is H2O, in the form of carbon dioxide also oxygen is there, CO2, and in many inorganic compounds also the oxygen is present. Okay, and oxygen cycle of the biosphere is extremely complex. Now, oxygen which is released in the process of photosynthesis, it is used up in the process like respiration, combustion, decomposition, corrosion, rusting, etc. Now see children, this diagram, if you look towards it very clearly, okay, you will come to know sun is there and plants produce the oxygen in presence of sunlight, carbon dioxide, water and soil. The plants produce the oxygen through the process of photosynthesis. Okay, now when the oxygen is released by the plants, if you are able to see, there is an animal, cow is grazing. Okay, so here in this picture they have shown only the cow, but they are human beings also, birds also, many living organisms. What they do, these animals, they breathe in the oxygen. Okay, these animals, they breathe in the oxygen, means whatever has happened, the plants have released the oxygen and animals have absorbed it. Then breakdown of the sugar molecule by animals. Now what happens, when we take in the oxygen in our body, then we break down that oxygen into the sugar molecule, or many, you can say, carbohydrates, small molecules, it is broken. Then during the process of respiration, animals give out the carbon dioxide. What happens, the animals, they release the CO2 gas, we give out the CO2 gas again. Then this gas is absorbed by the, yes, this CO2 is absorbed by the plants. See in picture it is written there, CO2 is absorbed by the plants. Again the plants produce the food material. Again the oxygen is as a byproduct of the food material process, photosynthesis. Again the oxygen is utilized by the animals and it is given out. So this is the oxygen cycle, which you can say it is a combination of the respiration and the photosynthesis process. Okay, students, once again go through the video, once again silently try to understand, because this is a thing which, as you read more, as you will refer more, your concepts will be becoming more clear. Okay, bye students, take care, hope you all are fine. Welcome back students. Okay, now in this session we are going to study the importance of oxygen cycle. Now see children, you have studied the ecosystem, you have studied about the food chain, you have studied about the food pyramid, you have studied about the carbon cycle. Now we have studied about the oxygen cycle in the previous 2 slides. Now children, it becomes very important for us so that you should know why this oxygen cycle is taught to you. What is the importance of the oxygen cycle? Okay, so now oxygen cycle along with the carbon and nitrogen cycle plays essential role in the existence of life on the earth. Can you imagine if there is no oxygen? How will all the animals survive on the earth? Okay, even human beings, we will not be able to respire properly and we are going to lose our life immediately. Okay, nowadays if you see children, even the patient who are suffering from the COVID-19 disease, they are having lack of oxygen in their body because they are not able to breathe properly. Okay, I hope you all understand the situation, and then in this you can correlate how much important the oxygen is there for our life. Second thing, the plants create majority of the oxygen we breathe through a process of photosynthesis. So in the oxygen cycle we have studied that the atmospheric oxygen is first absorbed by the plants. Also carbon dioxide is released, absorbed by the plants, and these plants release the oxygen. So this you can understand very properly that the plants are also equally very important, because plants constitute the maximum process of oxygen release in the atmosphere. Then we are having next importance is the oxygen cycle is a biological process which helps in maintaining the oxygen level by moving through the three main spheres, okay, of the earth, that is atmosphere, lithosphere and hydrosphere. Okay, so by moving through these three layers, it helps the maintaining the proper structure and proper functioning of the different spheres of the earth. Then, and some people also think that hydrosphere is a subdivision of biosphere, and it is also to be known as the fourth reservoir. Okay students, now it can be released through the root system, providing oxygen to the soil. Submerged aquatic vegetation and phytoplanktons release oxygen produced during the photosynthesis into water. So students, even the plants which are present under the water, they also release the oxygen through the process of the photosynthesis. Okay children, so this is the importance of the oxygen cycle, that oxygen cycle moves along all the four biosphere, all the four spheres of the earth, and helps in maintaining and proper functioning of all the different spheres of the earth. Okay students, now hope you have understood. Kindly once again watch the video twice or thrice you may watch. Those who are having textbook, kindly read the lesson, so you will be getting a more clear idea about these concepts. Okay students, take care. Thank you. Welcome back students. Hope you have performed the eye exercises which were given to you in the previous videos. Okay, in the first day only teacher has given you. Now children, in this videos I am going to share certain things, certain question answers which are the extra question answers and which might be helpful for you to study and understand the concept of oxygen cycle more clearly. Okay, now so what are the steps in oxygen cycle? Means you have studied the carbon cycle also, so you know the different steps in the carbon cycle. Now here the question is asked that what are the steps in the oxygen cycle. So what are the different steps in the oxygen cycle? First step is the photosynthesis. What happens in that stage? During the day, plants take energy from sun, carbon dioxide from the air and water from the soil to make the food. So first stage is the photosynthesis, in which the plants prepare the food with the help of the sunlight, carbon dioxide, air, water and soil. Then second stage is respiration. Now the oxygen that is released by the plants is used by the humans, animals and other organisms for the respiration, that is breathing. So these are the steps which mostly takes place in the oxygen cycle. Then After that, what are the four major components of the oxygen cycle? Means from in which major four components does the oxygen revolve, or oxygen is transmitted or transported, you can say, from which of the more components? So if you see, students, the main reservoirs of oxygen are atmosphere, biosphere, hydrosphere and the lithosphere. So these are the main reservoirs or main components of the oxygen cycle where the oxygen takes place. Then, what is the largest producer of oxygen on the earth? Means which are the things which are the producing oxygen in largest amount? So phytoplanktons or the planktons, that are plants. Phytoplanktons means the plants that are also known as the phytoplanktons. They grow and get their energy through photosynthesis and are responsible for producing estimated 80% of the world's oxygen. So students, if you remember, always your science teachers, your school teachers, even many NGOs, they keep on telling you why to plant trees. Why is it so important to, so we should plant more and more number of trees? The only reason for that is, children, till now at least you have understood, because trees are the major sources of oxygen. These trees, they produce approximately 80% of the world's oxygen demand. And I hope till now you have understood the uses of oxygen and importance of oxygen. So since oxygen is a life gas, you can say, okay, it is the gas with which we are able to breathe, we are able to survive. Hence phytoplanktons, also known as the plankton plants, they are 80% giving the oxygen, and that is the reason we should never cut the trees. We should avoid deforestation. We should plant as many as trees possible to protect our earth, to protect our nature. Okay children, hope you have understood. Take care, and kindly remember, on Saturday you are having a online test through the portal of science chapter number 6, that is plant classification. Kindly noted students. Okay children, bye and take care. Good morning students, once again welcome back to today's session. Now children, till now you have studied about the different components of the ecosystem, okay, and lastly we have studied about the carbon cycle and oxygen cycle. Now today we are going to follow towards our next section. We are going to study about the nitrogen cycle. Now here I am just going to discuss you regarding some important steps in the process of nitrogen fixation. So first step is the nitrogen fixation, in which conversion of nitrogen into nitrates and nitrites through atmospheric, industrial and biological process. So first step is conversion of nitrogen into nitrates and nitrites. Okay children, I will be explaining you this process once again in the next video. Okay, then second step is ammonification. In this ammonification, what happens? Release of ammonia through the decomposition of dead bodies and excretory waste of organisms. So in this step, ammonia is released from the bodies of the organisms, okay, and to the dead bodies and the excretory waste. Third step occurs. This third step is known as conversion of ammonia into nitrite and nitrate. Okay children, once again I am reading. In the nitrification, what happens? There is a conversion of ammonia into nitrite and then nitrate. This is the third stage of the nitrogen fixation. And the last is denitrification. What happens in denitrification? Conversion of nitrogen compound into gaseous nitrogen. Means in this stage the nitrogen compounds are converted into the gaseous form of nitrogen. Okay students, so once again we will revise. Once again in short I'll show you. First stage in the nitrogen cycle is, yes, nitrogen fixation is nitrogen fixation. Second is ammonification. Third is nitrification. And fourth is denitrification. Okay. For currently you just need to understand the concept with their names. In depth I'll be going to show you in the next videos. Good morning. Welcome back children. Now here see, this is the diagram of the nitrogen cycle. Okay. How nitrogen cycle goes on. Now atmospheric nitrogen, how it is converted into nitrates and nitrites. So this is the pictorial representation. If you want you can draw the same in your notebook, or if not possible you can draw in the form of a flow chart. Now what happens in the nitrogen cycle? The nitrogen cycle involves conversion of the nitrogen from its elemental form in the atmosphere into simpler molecules in the solid and water. Okay, so it is from the elemental atmospheric nitrogen is converted into simple soil and water. Nextly, these further get converted into more complex molecules in living beings. From simpler molecules in soil and water, these further increase their complexity, and while they come in the body of human beings or living beings, they become more and more complex. Then what happens then after that also? Finally the complex molecules are reduced and released back into the atmosphere as simple nitrogen molecules. And afterwards again these complex molecules are reduced and they are released back into atmosphere as simple nitrogen molecules. Okay, so these are the steps which are taking place in the nitrogen cycle. Now children, now we have reached to the end of this segment. Once again I will revise what are the important steps. Okay, certain what happens in the nitrogen cycle. So first of all, it involves the conversion of nitrogen into elemental form in the atmosphere and in the simple molecules of soil and water. Then these further get converted into more complex molecules in living beings. As these nitrogen molecules enter the living bodies, they start becoming complex or they start becoming more compound. Then finally what happens, these complex molecules are reduced and released back into atmosphere as simple nitrogen molecules. Okay, again these complex they break down and in atmosphere they are reduced and they are returned back in the form of simple nitrogen molecules. They are written in the form of simple nitrogen molecules to the atmosphere. Okay, remaining I will be going to teach you in the next video. Good morning students, once again welcome back. Now we are going to study the next component, that is fixing of atmospheric nitrogen and into how many steps it occurs. Okay, what are the steps in the fixing of atmospheric nitrogen? So the first step is nitrogen fixation. Now see children, this is little bit a depth stage. Okay, this video you just watch properly. Nitrogen fixation, in this process the atmospheric nitrogen is converted into water soluble nitrates. Okay, in this stage what is happening, atmospheric nitrogen is converted into nitrates. Then in previous lectures videos we have discussed which are the microorganisms involved in this processes. Okay, there which type of microorganisms, I have answered the question already. So now this step is performed by organisms like Rhizobium, Azotobacter and blue-green algae. So nitrogen fixation is caused by Rhizobium, Azotobacter and blue-green algae. In this what happened, atmospheric nitrogen is converted into either NO3 molecule or NH4 molecule. This is the first stage of nitrogen fixation. Then the next stage is nitrification. What happens in nitrification? The ammonia first converts into nitrites and then into nitrates. Okay. First stage is which? This is the nitrogen fixation. In this what happens? Atmospheric nitrogen is converted into water soluble nitrates. Here nitrification what happens? Ammonia is converted into nitrites and then into nitrates. This step is performed by which type of bacteria? Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter. Okay. These are the two bacteria which are involved in the process of the nitrification. Then assimilation. In this step, the nitrogen NH3 and NO2, NH3 and NO3 molecules are incorporated into the biological tissues. Okay, in this stage, the nitrogen is given up or absorbed in the biological tissues of the living being. Then after assimilation, we are having ammonification. Okay, now what happens in the ammonification? In ammonification is a process in which complex dead organic matter is decomposed into ammonia. And now which organisms are involved in this step? The step is performed by organisms like decaying bacteria and fungi. So decaying bacteria and fungi, they convert complex dead organic matter into ammonia. It is occurred by the organisms like bacteria and fungi. Then the next is the denitrification. Denitrification means what? It is the process wherein the nitrates present in the soil are reduced and released into the atmosphere. Okay, in this process the nitrates present in the soil are reduced to release back into the atmosphere. So this is the chemical process happening, that NO3 minus gives N2. So this is the chemical reaction occurring in the process of the denitrification. Okay. Now children, once again I request you to go through all the videos, see the videos twice or thrice, so your concepts will be becoming more and more clear. Okay children, read the lesson and keep on underlining the important concepts which will help you to revise the answer properly.